welcome in.
Welcome in. Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome in to Do It for the Story.
I needed that sip of that Mingle mocktail.
I'm Stacey.
I'm Morgan.
Welcome back. Welcome in.
Here we are, Do It for the Story. I'm excited about every single episode, but I'm excited about this week's episode in particular because we haven't gotten to talk about the Annapolis Film Festival.
Yeah, we haven't. We mentioned it that we went, but
And y'all were very responsive to the content.
Right.
Folks were curious, why are you there? How are you interviewing Jennifer Esposito on the red carpet? What's going on?
Right.
And we were invited by our very good friend, Elise Colgan.
Yes. Fellow neighbor,
Eastport. And Elise was asked to do the marketing for the Annapolis Film Festival this year.
and she did a great job, Elise. You nailed it.
Incredible job. You absolutely I'll just say this. She hit her goals, and I'm not surprised. She crushes it.
Okay.
So Elise was in charge of media, and so introduced us to Patty and Lee, who are two incredible Annapolis women that run the festival. And Patty and Lee have been in this industry.
In the business.
In the business for decades. And the film festival actually, I'm forgetting. Was this the 12th year? It's something like that. It's like the 11th or 12th.
I think so, but
they've hit a number that I know next year they will now be accredited.
right. Yeah, next year will be big. It's
which means anything that
step
plays.
aside, Sundance.
Yeah, which means anything that plays could get an Oscar, which is freaking huge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it was also just incredible to be there and get that behind the scenes look. I think, and I understand, Annapolis the film festival is a smaller one. I don't know, honestly, even the size of Sundance. We hear Sundance Film Festival, knowing that it's a big one that a lot of people, go to try and get their films picked up. But I don't know how many films they play. I don't actually know how large.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
You're saying, I know it more from just it gets more publicity. There's more bigger names that go there.
Right.
But also because what we learned too, being at the festival, which was interesting, is that if you, if your film gets, why am I blanking on the released?
Yeah.
Sundance?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it gets released, you have to release it at Sundance to be in Sundance.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Yep.
But
Anyway, so the film festival, so we were, the big thing with, it wasn't just that, Elise is my best friend and, would do anything for me and was very excited about the podcast, but also Patty and Lee, what they have done with the Annapolis Film Festival is they have decided, and this was from what I understand, since inception, that they wanted to promote new and emerging talent.
right.
As well as make sure that there was diversity and diversity of all kinds.
Right, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was incredible to see.
Yeah, especially in our small town, Little Annapolis. And I will say too, Morgan and I, we went last year.
Yeah, we did.
We watched films.
Yeah, Elise wasn't involved. We went because it was a cool thing. Yeah.
Patrons, if you will.
Yes.
And we had heard about the festival. I mean, they have stuff around town, but Naptown Scoop, a local newsletter that gets sent out of just different happenings and events going on.
Yep.
And so we went, we're like, oh, this would be cool. We should go watch a film. I wish more people in Annapolis need to go. And I was shocked I wasn't shocked, but more young people. And I feel especially with next year being accredited, do mark your calendars when we get the date for 2025, because it was awesome.
Yes.
It was intimate.
Yes.
And that's the thing, not just us, but even if you went just to go see a film, you are in the same room as names like Edie Falco.
Yeah.
And, you know, from The Sopranos.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Esposito, like them presenting their films, which was really cool.
Exactly. They're presenting their films. And so, you know, like Stacey was saying, last year was our first time going to the Annapolis Film Festival and my first time going to a film festival.
Yeah, same.
And so I didn't realize that, you know, immediately following the film, then there's a talk. And so like what Stacey's saying is we're not just saying like, oh, you get to see Jennifer
not like they're sitting in the same theater. Right.
No, like, and they allow you to go up and it depends on, you know, how much time, but I think it was almost every single panel. They absolutely allow for the audience to ask a question. Mm-hmm. And so if you are someone that is one, like even likes to watch movies, but especially if you're someone that is interested in making connections in the arts, fantastic experience.
And it was just such a cool event, like just to do, and not just for Annapolis, but I was like, oh my God, this is something where clearly, like Morgan was saying, we went last year for the first time. DC, Frederick, like really anywhere within a 2-hour radius, like it's totally. And what a great weekend to come to Annapolis, because it was a great time of year that, you know, it could be chilly or it could be like spring, but then you have an inside event to do, and you also can get like VIP tickets, and there were a lot of like awesome events and things.
Yeah, they make it affordable. Like you can just decide to go to one film, and you know, I don't remember how much they were because we had our, you know. We had our passes,
media passes. Thank you, Elise.
Yes. So, but the, you know, affordable, you know, definitely under $20 for, you know, just one film, or you can get a pass and of, you know, however much.
It was cool. It was a vibe.
And there was also parties and events that you could go to too and buy tickets for those. And they were phenomenal. I mean, okay. And so, yes, we are praising like, and you might just be like, oh, I'm sure Sundance is the same, right? Or I'm sure, you know, I honestly don't know. I couldn't think of off the top of my head another film festival. But you might be thinking, well, I'm sure all of them are great. We're here to tell you no. So, and this is not from us.
Yeah, this is
from so what we were asked to do, as you know, some of you might have seen on social media, we were asked to go and then interview anyone that was available. So we were literally in the media lounge, and
anyone that had a film,
anyone, you know, director, actor, writer, producer, anyone that had a film, we were asked to interview. And then we were also asked to host the red carpet. So, and those, you know, the red carpet interviews are the quick, you know, 3-minute or less, like you're getting, you know, just like you see on you know,
Morgan was in her Maria Menounos. Who else does the red carpet anymore?
Yeah, I don't, you know, we'll think of someone after the fact, but I'm blanking in the moment. But, you know, yes, exactly. So, you know, Ryan Seacrest used to.
That's Joan Rivers, the fashion. Well, you weren't doing fashion. Actually, our friends Warren and Ben were doing fashion. So shout out to them as well, the correspondents.
Exactly. But anyway, so we were asked to do any interview at any moment, like be ready to go, and then obviously like host the red carpet. And also, you know, we then just tried to show up to as many as many films as possible to like understand what people were actually producing and all that. So we're interviewing these people, and then we're having, you know, just follow-up conversations too, off mic, off camera, and every single person, this is not an exaggeration, people from the other side of the world, like, were saying this was the best film festival that they had ever been to, hands down. The most.
Jennifer Esposito said it.
Yes, I mean, exactly. That they felt so welcomed and supported, and that there was no ego. That you know, it was really about networking and making connections and supporting one another. And the really cool thing about, you know, Patty and Lee is, one, obviously they're women. And that was one thing that, you know, Jennifer Esposito, I was actually also got to host a panel. I was going to say,
Morgan also had to co-lead a panel of, and it was women past, present, future in the industry. So, you know, those who just sharing their stories, experiences, answering questions and whatnot.
Yes.
Very empowering.
And I just lucked out to get smashed in the middle. I basically just had to do an intro and a closing.
You were there with Mimi.
I was there with Mimi
as well.
Who? Oh my God.
Not Mimi, our sister.
No,
you may hear
yes,
our
sorry.
sister Mara's nickname is Mimi.
So this Mimi that we're talking about has been in the industry, like, and that was actually why I started where I was going with this when I started making this comment was, it's not only Patty and Lee are these incredible women that have been in the industry for decades, and they, very similar to Annapolis. Honestly, it's like welcoming and warm. That's their personalities, and intelligent and smart and creative. But also they bring along their friends. So the awesome thing was
great energy.
They bring along all of these friends of theirs that have also been in the industry for decades. And then they asked him to be on all these panels. Like these people have been, so Mimi, who I'm talking about, and it's terrible. I'm totally spacing on her last name in the moment.
I am too in the moment, which is bad. I'll put it in the show notes.
I'll put it in the show notes. But so she was the first journalist to report on the AIDS epidemic.
Yep.
And we're talking about people that have, 60 Minutes. I mean, every major media outlet that you can think of, like the folks that ended up, Elise and I late night at 2, 3 in the morning are sitting around with people like swapping we're like, how is this happening right now that we're here hearing these incredible stories of people that were on the front lines of something so large, and still are.
And I think also it's interesting because I kept thinking about it with like, the different jobs we've had and different industries we've worked with, whether worked for or worked alongside, like you with recruiting and whatnot. And it's also kind of something you learn, especially in recruiting, when you're like talking to people where you may not know anything about their industry or their specific role at times. And you're just like, okay, I gotta do my, I always say like, do your improv, tap dance, figure it out, ask open-ended questions. But you realize in those moments, because we're comfortable in that way, I think it was at first a little bit like, oh my gosh, because I wasn't able to go to the red carpet.
Stacey was really sick.
And I wasn't able, so the events. And so I was there for some of the sit-down interviews. But when I show up, I'm like, okay, again, first rodeo. We didn't know what, like, the level of, like, what we'd be doing, the interviews. And our friends, Warren and Ben, were like, oh my gosh, Morgan crushed it last night on the red carpet. Like, she was really doing it so well and it's live. I'm like, that's awesome. I said, well, I'm not surprised. Like, are you shocked? I just think it's different too, because when people that you know in your personal life don't really see you in your like work environment and understand, like, you're making those quick pivots. But no, it was cool to see the skills just, again, communications majors, transferable. It's funny that you say that too, because earlier I said I've never been to a film festival. Technically, I've been to South by Southwest twice. I just was only there for the tech portion and was behind, my recruiting table trying to, and going to all these networking events. But also in the same vein, I'm hosting an event at South by Southwest for recruiting for, IT jobs. Yeah,
I'm hosting.
You're relating. You're talking.
Literally, we were doing mini TED Talks.
Yep.
It's the same. And that was when I, Elise pitched me and is a gem and got me in there without. But the first time I met Lee, I was like, don't be nervous. I promise I've headed up a panel before. I've hosted
which you had,
and
like
I
an
had
Afrotech and things.
Right. At these different, because, I had to do it for my job.
I love a good panel.
And it is so funny though, that, as long as you can, which we're going to do a conversation on this at some point on imposter syndrome and how I personally believe it's not a real thing. It's just you don't have the experience yet. It's the same thing, right?
I don't want to get
sidetracked.
I've had some good feedback from some of you, and I loved hearing it. Yeah. So we will talk about it more.
But in that moment, I realized, just turn it on like you do at a networking event.
Right.
And you don't need to know everything. Ask questions, be positive and kind and welcoming. And it was a freaking incredible event. But so that we just wanted to give you all like the understanding of what the film festival is all about, why we were there, and then to tee you up with, you know, the rest of this segment, the rest of this episode is going to be our interview with the writer and star of one of the films that was featured at the festival, which is Chum. And the writer and star is Eliza Jayne South.
Yep.
And she is an Australian woman, and the film takes place in the outback. Director is Jason King. And while we are still working with the film festival to, you know, there's so many interviews that we did, all that to be edited and cut down.
So they're
in a
coming for some of
compilation.
you that don't.
Yeah. So that's coming, and we're going to figure out whether we're going to release it here or just there and, you know, share it together, whatever.
Right.
But that's still being figured out. But we were like, you know what, let's get something out there. And we realized too that this conversation with Eliza was so representative of the film festival. And I won't, you know, steal her thunder and take her words from her. I'll let you all listen to the rest of the episode. But she was so, you know, just received with open arms.
Yeah.
And the conversation that unfolds as well, that you'll hear that Stacey and I, you know, have with Eliza, also just felt so do it with the story. Like, the heart of everything we're trying to do.
That to me was something that we picked up on. It kept coming up in conversations, whether it was, you know, in our conversation with Eliza or when we were even at the panel that you led. And I think it was, no, I know it was, but it was the same sentiment where Jennifer Esposito mentioned, like, Annapolis had been so welcoming about her film. Well, them in general, but they were there for their film, Fresh Kills. And that other film festival, she's like, I hate to say it, but the obvious difference is that this is a festival that's been put on by women.
Yep.
With the intention to celebrate diversity, all types of diversity. And she was like, everyone was so kind, so welcoming. And like Eliza said too, like you'll hear about, you know, accommodating. So that was interesting. And it was interesting to hear it said, but like you said, we had, you know, at this point we had already released our sexual harassment episode, right? Talking about women in the workplace, but we were talking about, you know, the industries we had worked in and our experiences. And obviously we don't need to, I mean, everybody, like you pick up a magazine, listen to a podcast, turn on the news, entertainment, you know, it's there. You know, the treatment of women and the sexual harassment, all the things, Me Too. And then also, again, with the diversity, hearing people too talk about their stories being a Black woman in the industry, but not just the treatment, but the subject matter. There was a film where, oh my gosh, this is really bad. I'm blanking on their name, but I'll include it in the show notes of,
Which film was it? I might remember.
the short film,
Manish the dancer, or
Josh Green, and I'm now forgetting. It was the Jewish and the Black film talking about.
Yes,
basically,
I forget the name of the film. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes because
I don't have my little notes.
Was it Josh and Zach? What do I want to say? Yeah, but anyway,
I think it was.
But what were you going to say?
Okay. But I was going to say, so all these just different subject matter where we, you know, their film was talking about allyship among different, you know, marginalized groups. And, you know, it was so much relevance to what we do talk about, but that's what was cool. We talk about it because it's our experience. So there were so many people there that could relate to us because they either were there representing, telling a story of a marginalized group, or being there, you know, as someone with a disability, or, you know, it was, it felt so right.
Truthfully, it felt serendipitous too, because it was kind of bizarre. Like we had, when we were asked to do this, Patty and Lee, literally, we hadn't posted an episode, and Elise was like, "You're going to love it." You know, she's just like selling the heck out of it. And, but then once we were there, everyone just kept talking about their storytelling and their, you know, need to, you know, Jennifer Esposito even said it, you know, she had this story in her for so long. And we've been talking about that. I got chills just now saying it, how, you know, we've been for years thinking about what, you know, whether do we write a book or what do we do to like get get our story out because something inside of us was like screaming, you need to release this. And, and it was really cool to be among artists that, you know, really validated like the same reasons that we started to do this podcast. Like, I think when you watch a film, we're sitting there ready to be entertained or learn something. And you're not often really thinking about what goes in. And I don't mean, you know, all the money and the people and the effort and the time, but the real, like, you got to open yourself up to create and do and
be resilient as hell to get money and funding
but vulnerable. You know, that's the word that I was looking for. That you really have to be vulnerable to really get the story that you want out there. And so many people, you know, were telling us, you know, that these were stories that that they'd been meaning to share, or that they knew, or was something that connected to them.
That's what was really cool too, when you kept seeing the similar
just
themes,
the overlap.
When we asked the question.
We need to interview Penny and Lee too, because I'm like literally still, I'm like, is this just like the stars aligning and the humans that you all draw towards you? Or are you going through and thinking of, you know, with each film festival, like what theme are we, you know, what theme are we like pulling for here and bring those people in? I don't know, but
it was incredible. And the film that I was mentioning, it was a short film, and it was directed by Josh Green and Luke Harris, and it was called You Will Not Replace Us. And they actually were winners of the 2023 pitch contest for shorts at the Annapolis Film Festival. So then they were coming back with the reward dollars they had won, they put towards making their film, and then they were coming back, you know, premiering the film at the film festival. But these are two young guys. They're like you know, like literally in their mid-20s. Kind of I think they were like 24, 25. And in a 15, 20-minute film, the message that they were able to capture, portray, get out, it was like so powerful. And it gave a sense of hope, but it was also just, again, where it was so themes that we keep needing. Triggered, I just heard in the background Morgan's team's ding.
Well, but you know what's interesting too, and not to, I know we're teeing this up to have you all like hear the Chum's interview, but you know, interesting that you bring up Josh and Luke, because you went to that film. We had to divide and conquer, you know, at certain points because we couldn't go to everything. And interesting that, you know, they made that film and won the award. They made the film, I don't even know exactly when they made it, but they won the award for 2023. And then here we are, you know, October 7th happens. I know. And then they're releasing it. It was like, I know. It was so needed.
And they made the film, and I don't want to give it all away in case we, you know, depending on when that gets released, but, or how we release it, I should say.
Yeah.
But they made the film in response to Kanye West's anti-Semitic, you know, rants. Mm-hmm. And they were like, this is something that needs to be addressed. Mm-hmm. And what they did was they went back to, and they talked to community leaders. I think they live in Los Angeles, a rabbi, and I think there was a pastor or another community official, about the history of allyship between the African American and the Jewish community, and how the Jewish community played such a large role in allyship for the Black community during the civil rights movement. Yep. And how literally they, you know, walked with Dr. Martin Luther King in Selma, and they said that the Black civil rights activists said, we need white allies.
Exactly.
We need the help, but we also need, sadly, to have more white people here, because as a level of protection, if white people are there, the Black people aren't going to get hurt. Or if a white person gets shot, they're like, this is going to make headline news. If a Black person gets shot, it's just another day in Mississippi. So anyway,
I know, honestly,
Just, it was so powerful.
I hope, and I'm meeting with Patty. No, sorry, I'm meeting with Lee only. I was thinking I'm meeting with Pat and Lee, but I'm meeting with Lee on Friday, and we're hopefully,
I would love to sit down with them just to get. I think it's also like the knowledge that they have. I would love to pick their brain even about like how did this become about? How do you even go about just
starting something so large,
something large, like and that like entrepreneurial mindset too of like how their industry connections and their community connections and the intersection of both. And
and I'm also so curious too, because we met their friends, very diverse group of friends.
Amazing. I love their friends. I was like, can I be in the group?
Literally, like, I have Mimi's phone number and I'm like, we're going to be best friends. But when thinking about, Josh and Luke, it's the same thing again, and even it's like every single film now that I'm going through in my mind, every single one that I got to see, there was this we're on the inside, we all look the same, cut us open, we all look the same. Like we have more in common than we do, and we have, differences. And the beauty of,
it was also the human connection element.
Exactly.
Too. It had been a while since I had been in a room of
mouth.
like, a lot of times it is just through work where, there may be a conference, but I haven't been on that circuit of like the conferences and stuff as much. That changed
with the
more with COVID.
Work.
And so being in an area where you're like, you don't know anyone, and it's not like you're there meeting people because it's a wedding or, a friend thing. It was really cool to be in a place that I wouldn't have thought I would have been in terms of like the industry and the crowd, and to really be learning and immersed in it. And again,
and accepted.
So welcomed.
Yes. Accepted.
So
and
accepted.
That's
like,
what I was getting
No one
at
was
too.
like, oh, you're starting out. Everyone was like,
it was actually,
I started out too. How can I help you
along? It was
along?
actually kind of crazy. And even at the parties, like, because I know you couldn't go to that because you were sick, but these parties, I literally am out there sober, dancing like I'm there with my girls, like no one's watching. I mean, it was a beautiful scene, and everyone just kept saying it over and over, that they were so thankful. But we'll stop there. This is, if you take anything away from this, and you're not able to get to the Annapolis Film Festival, just continuing to hammer home, try and put yourself in someone else's shoes, be, more welcoming, understand that you have more similarities than you do differences with other folks. But also, if you are within a drive, a train ride, like get here
just
next
do it
year.
For a
weekend.
It was
freaking
get a hotel.
Fire. It was fire.
It was a lot of fun. It really was. It was really cool, and a little bit of everything: the arts, the party, the social atmosphere, and then you're in cute little Annapolis.
And I'll say the other thing that was cool too was that they did a really great job of making sure that Maryland was represented, and there were amazing films about. Like, I saw this incredible film about regenerative farming, and learned that Maryland is the number one place as far as food that's grown. It is harder to grow food chemically in Maryland than it is to be, as far as like getting, I don't know how they do it, fines, taxes, whatever. But basically they make it so annoying for you to use chemicals that all of these farms are like, organic, generative, a lot of them are, I should say.
Even more reason to shop local and in season of fruits and vegetables if you can.
Exactly. But it was that too. It was like, you could go from, fresh kills of like, yes, I'm learning, but I'm also incredibly entertained, to then, then next up, I'm learning. I'm now growing a regenerative farm that's a whole other episode, in my front and backyard now. Cause I was like, okay, well, I'm doing this, cause they taught you, they were literally telling you like to get rid of your grass.
On next week.
Yeah. Anyway, so yada. I could talk about it all day, but
it was a great experience. And, so
enjoy
the rest.
Enjoy
this
interview
with Eliza.
This interview with Eliza, and
awesome.
Please go. You'll hear her talk about her website. And please go to it. It's a short film. I don't know exactly how they're releasing it, at this moment, but
I think she mentioned in the episode or the interview, but I think some of it was because with the film festival, obviously a short film, you're not going to put your link for the film on the website and give away too much or some of the stipulations of the film festival. So I think they had another festival to go to.
And then they're just going to have it on the website or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So check it out. Support this incredible human. Eliza, thanks for sitting down with us.
Yeah, thank you, Eliza. So great learning from you and
being inspired by you.
Inspired by you. Everyone can get inspired by this
episode. This is why we picked this one, because we were like, this is the heart of what Do It For the Story is all about, and this is the heart of what the Annapolis Film Festival is all about. So enjoy.
Have fun. Listen in.
Diffs. Oh, wait. And one last thing. I want to just plug our Mike Soriano, our friend, who came through with I was like, last minute, we need these
beautiful stickers.
Our beautiful stickers.
Posters.
You'll see them we'll post, on Instagram and stuff too, if you're not watching this right now, but we're holding them up to the camera.
Rave reviews, Mike.
We literally had so many people, other people are handing out, cards at the festival and stuff, and they were so impressed that we had these stickers, and then we've been putting them all over the place, wherever we're traveling and visiting in Annapolis.
DM us and we'll get you one.
But anyway, but Mike's
business, 5 stars,
graphic
and share
designer,
it, and we'll get you
graphic designer, Everyone Design. And then I also want to shout out Sir Speedy, who in Annapolis turned it around in 2 seconds for me.
Printed
stickers are not that easy to turn around in 24 hours. And he was just like, oh yeah, I'll get it done for you. So Sir Speedy, you live up to your name.
You were Mr. Speedy, sir.
All right, here it is.
Yeah. So listen in.
Divas, Diffs.
And review us, follow us, love us, like us. That's it.
That's it. Enjoy the show. Welcome in. Welcome to Do It For the Story podcast. I'm Morgan Williams.
And I'm Stacey Williams-Cease.
And today we're sitting here with Eliza. Please give us your name, the film that you're here with, and then just give us a little bit about your story, and then we'll start jumping in with questions.
Sure. My name is Eliza Jayne South. I'm here with Chum, which was filmed in Outback, New South Wales in Australia. So myself as the writer and the lead actress have come over here to Annapolis to the film festival with the director, Jason King, and we're just here just sussing out, I guess, what happens in the American film industry and these types of festivals, because this is our international premiere, and this is our first international film festival. So,
oh my goodness!
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm like, we're honored that you. I know is where you're making your international debut.
Yeah.
How has the festival? I know we're on the last day today.
We
right?
are.
I'm losing track. I'm like 3, 4, 5.
So I was like, right?
Yeah.
How has it been so far?
This has been the most phenomenal, life-changing experience. I've done a bit of the festival circuit in Australia. So Chum was filmed in February of 2023, and our delivery date was April. It's a 12-minute short. And it then premiered at the Sydney Film Festival in June. From there, it went on to the Travelling Film Festival, which is apparently the best of the best from the Sydney Film Festival that travels around most of Australia. So through that, I got to attend several different film festivals, and then we entered Chum into a couple of independents as well. So we've done a bit of travel around the film festivals in Australia. So that is the only thing I can compare anything like this to, and this just, oh my God, it's just on turbo. It's just on steroids compared to anything I've experienced in Australia. And the love and the community and the support, there just seems to be no jealous narcissism here. It's just everybody is just propping everybody else up, and everybody's super keen to see everybody else succeed, and it's been amazing.
That's amazing to hear, because we've been asking so many of the filmmakers that we've interviewed, what's your reaction been? And it's so similar. The community feel very supported, and the networking. So that's, obviously we're biased
living in Annapolis, but we're happy to hear.
Yeah, no, you should be biased, and like my situation is a little bit different. I'm a blind filmmaker. I'm probably one of very few. And I don't know if the red carpet rollout is just because people see me as being a little bit different and they just want to make sure that I'm super comfortable and super happy and catered to and welcome. But, it's just been amazing, absolutely amazing.
Like Stacey said, we love to hear that. Being that, we're not originally from Annapolis. We are from Maryland, but we've moved here and have been, just welcomed with open arms. So that means so much. And thank you in this moment too. I want to just remind everyone that this film festival, while put on by the incredible women, Patty and Lee, that are the ones that are, it's a top-down welcoming vibe, but it's also this community that follows them. I said earlier on the panel, we'll follow Patty and Lee till, the ends of the earth, and it's volunteers that run this. So, it really is reflective of this community. But let's get back to Chum. I want folks, so, like you said, you are a blind filmmaker, and that right there, I want to understand, where did your relationship with film begin? When did you decide to become a filmmaker? And just give us a little bit more of your story, and then how did that create Chum?
So I was not doing much with my life, and about in 2019, I moved from big city Sydney, like inner city, where life for me was just becoming, frankly, quite dangerous. We have a share bike system and a share scooter system, and people just get these bikes and then they just leave them lying all over the place. So I found the community that I was living in, which is the largest lesbian community in Australia, in Erskineville. I had lived there with my former husband. So I was sort of disenfranchised from my community and unhappy, I guess, basically unhappy. So I went for a holiday to the Outback, and within 24 hours, I decided I loved it, absolutely loved Broken Hill, and that I was going to give living there a go because it had wide open spaces, huge pavements, not a lot of traffic, not a lot of kids down doing Pokemon Go or a huge student population. Everything was accessible. Everything was super easy for me. So 3 months after first visiting Broken Hill, I packed up everything from my house in Sydney, put it in the back of a truck and moved out and rented a little place out in Broken Hill. And I sort of sat around waiting for a panic attack to hit and thinking, when the dust settles, I will find my next pathway. So 3 months in, I had settled. There'd been no panic attacks, and I thought, okay, maybe this is a really good decision. So I wandered down to my local community radio station, and that day they put me on as the weather girl. So I commenced audio production.
Oh, that's awesome.
On that day, and it was a really, really wonderful experience. So then, a few months in, they said, we need a country music DJ, put on your boots, and this is going to be your gig and you have to produce the show. So I started doing that. Then I got headhunted by the local commercial radio station, and they put me on air with my own program, which was 10 till 1:30 Monday through Friday. So I was doing all this stuff in an audio environment, all this audio production, all this recording stuff. And we have this wonderful festival that comes to Broken Hill annually. I think it's the third weekend in March. It often falls around my birthday. And I thought, right, it's called the Perfect Light Film Festival, and it's run by a guy called Steve Bastoni, who's a very well-known Australian actor. And that was happening at the same time as I was trying to work out what I was going to do when I first arrived back in 2019. So I went to that, and that's where I first met Jason King. So I just kept showing up. Every year I would just turn up. I would go to the Filmmakers workshop on the Sunday, which is a lot like a lot of the things that are going on here. We were able to keep the people or the stars that were there, because every year he gets some fantastic Aussie creatives to come along with really big names. And there's only one flight out on the Sunday and it's at 4:30 in the afternoon. So we would have them all day. So we would just have this workshop, and I just kept going every year and throwing my hat in the ring and saying, I'd like to do something. And every year they would say, well, hopefully this time next year we'll see you've done something. So Jason came to me at the end of 2022, and we were out of lockdown. Things were becoming easier, and he just said, look, Screenability, which is a program allowing disabled screenmakers to make shorts in Australia, it funds to the tune of $30,000. So Screenability, Jason came and said there's a Screenability grant available if you think you can write. Because we've got a director, I'm directing, we've got a producer, so we now need another key creative, we need a writer. So I said, well, let me have a shot at this. So I just put down 3 broad ideas in thick black texture in a big exercise book, like a big school book, and then had a couple of meetings with Jason, and we decided that Chum was going to be the best to work on. And then that's how it happened. So we developed it and got the grant. We were one of 3 out of, I think, a couple of dozen applicants. And we were awarded the grant. The same day we found out we were awarded the grant, I was sacked from my job in commercial radio. I had creative differences with my station manager, so, these things happen along the way. And which it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, because I was busy thinking, if we get this grant, how am I going to get time off for filming?
Right.
How am I going to get time off to go to the film festivals? How am I going to get time to promote and help distribute and do all that sort of stuff? So it was probably the greatest thing that could have happened. So we went through that Christmas, and then went into just working on the script and really developing it to what it is. And then we went into filming around St. Valentine's Day the following February.
Awesome.
Incredible.
Yeah. That's incredible. Just still, like I think you said, just kept showing up.
Yeah.
And I think just it's something for me that I've heard from the other filmmakers here, because the arts is not an easy industry to be in, just to keep showing up, to keep coming back.
Yeah, and I'm in a really fortunate position where I retired or semi-retired when I was about 40. I'm 52 now. So for me, there isn't a financial need as much, which means I can be as creative as I like without that level of financial desperation. But I do know that for a lot of people who are in this industry, they're living on handouts and grants and, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and just living really, really tough and hoping for that one big break, and I'm hoping for that one big break too.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't come, I'm not going to be totally devastated, because the experiences I'm having along the way, I wouldn't have got otherwise. And, I think the experiences like this film festival are what we all do it for. And at this festival, our little 12-minute film made in outback New South Wales has been bundled up and packaged and rolling alongside a Francis Ford Coppola film. I mean, in which universe does that actually happen?
So, pinch yourself.
I know, and it's constant.
It's incredible. I mean, and for those folks out there, I think, I appreciate you speaking to, your privilege when it comes to, the finances, but you are blind, you are disabled.
Yes.
And as someone who also has, I have psoriatic arthritis among a couple other, autoimmune diseases.
Yep.
And, so speak to, if you could, those that it's even harder, not only are we talking about, you're a woman, you're disabled. And so, but speak to other folks like you, that are wanting to be in the arts, and,
what advice would you give to those folks? What's that first step forward?
I think for people who want to become filmmakers, I think the first step forward is to write from the heart. So develop a script, find a story, and it's going to be a passion project, and you're going to have to get used to doing a lot of passion projects in the first instances. So to have an expectation that you're going to come in, like Chum, all of the key crew on that, a lot of us worked for nothing, and a lot of us actually gave of our time as well, and, did things that had a financial value attached. But, like, I had to clean. We had crew that came out from Sydney and they stayed in a 2-bedroom unit, like flat thing in Broken Hill. And the woman who was so generous to let us use that then turned around and demanded we did $1,200 worth of physical labour at her property, plus clean it. So my partner, who I had broken up with just before we went into filming, had committed to do the maintenance work on her unit for her, which he carried out, thankfully. And then on, the bump out day, I had to go in with one of my friends and we had to clean that place spotlessly. So it's a hard industry.
Yeah.
So if you can have a little bit, particularly people with disabilities, if you can have a little bit of financial backing behind you going into it, or you've got people who can help support you really strongly going into it, then if you don't make money off the first few projects, it's not a problem. But there's also this notion for me to invest in self. So you need to be prepared to spend time and money investing in your skills, investing in coming to festivals like this, doing it the best way you know how. For me, with my disability, that meant I had to fly business class from Australia. No one was going to pay for that other than me.
Right.
So, that turns out to be, about $9,000. So, but that's an investment in self. And if I get work out of this, that will be tax deductible for me in Australia. So that's fine, not a problem. But to initiate a project, I think, particularly for people with disabilities, write about what you know. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be a tale of woe. In fact, when people sit down and they see a film with somebody with a disability in it, in the first 10 seconds, they're already assuming that this is going to be a tale of, overcoming adversity, and that this person with a disability is clearly going to be the victim in this scenario. And that doesn't always have to be the case. We don't have to be defined by our disabilities. People just need to understand that from the moment our feet touch the floor in the morning until the moment we get back into bed at night, our days are just a little bit tougher.
Yep.
But with the right support, particularly in this industry, our disabilities don't need to define us, and they don't need to be that tough. And on set, once you get there, you've got your first AD and your second AD, and you've got a whole group of people, producers and other actors. Everybody's willing to help. It's such a supportive thing. But I think really to start with, put something on paper. Start writing.
Yeah.
Run it past friends and family. Spend time doing it. Don't expect it to happen overnight. Run it by people you trust, who are going to give you an honest opinion, an honest appraisal. And then start networking. And if that means you go to an acting class, you may not want to be an actor in the long run, but that's a great way to start networking with people who may want to star in your film too.
Right. That's such a good point.
And talent scouts, go to those acting classes. They have people there. And everybody's wanting to tick, it sounds awful, but everybody's wanting to tick a diversity box these days.
Yes.
Yep.
So, and gone are the days where people with disabilities were played by people without disabilities.
Oh, gosh.
You know, that is just so uncool these days.
Right.
So if you're blind, or if they're casting for a blind person, they want a blind person. If they're casting for a deaf person, they want a deaf person. You know, if they want someone in a wheelchair, they want someone who lives their life in a wheelchair. So to take an acting class and to learn how to get the best out of yourself given your limited situation or circumstances, that's also a really helpful tool.
Oh
That's
my
great
gosh.
advice.
I was just going to say, like, I feel like, do we end it there? I mean, I'm like,
But I did want to hear, because to your point too about how, you know, films don't always have to be the woe is me, or especially if it's being, you know, written by or directed by someone with a disability. But tell us about Chum.
yes,
Bit.
please.
Just, and you know, it's a
so-
short, so you don't have to give away everything, but like the concepts for those that haven't seen it.
So Chum is the story of a middle-aged blind woman who lives alone in Broken Hill, and she has a dog. That is all my story. I'm a middle-aged woman living alone in Broken Hill with a dog, not a guide dog, and the dog in Chum is an Australian Kelpie. Her name is Jack, and she's retired now. She's a movie dog. My dog, on the other hand, is an 18-month-old American Staffordshire Terrier who is systematically eating my house from the door jambs upwards. So, but it is a constant struggle for me to find dog food. You know, like I get even human food, I get down to having absolutely nothing left, and I'm a really creative cook. So I sort of look and I'll wait until I've got absolutely nothing left, till the cupboards are dry, until I order food again. So that is just a constant thing on the back of my mind. Does Cash, that's my dog.
Cash, that's cute.
Johnny Cash, my little man in black. Does he have food? So it's just a constant. And so that became part of the storyline. You know, Mary, my alter ego, is checking the cupboards. They're all bare. And she's got to head out and purchase dog food for her lovely dog girl. So she heads off to the local shop, cane in hand. I use a long white cane everywhere I go, and a trolley, and everything is, the audio track on Chum is very, very precise. So if you were to watch the film without any visuals, you would still pick up the storyline.
Oh, I love
It's
that.
designed to be for a vision impaired audience.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the colour scheme is the same. Very bright, very contrasty. So she heads off, gets her dog food, and on her way home, she has an accident. She has a fall, and a kindly stranger renders assistance, and he just keeps reappearing in her life over a short period, during which time she realises that she's become the victim of a scam. Which ironically featured in so many of the films at the festival here this year.
yes.
That's
yeah.
when you're right. Because I'm totally blanking now. What was the year?
Thelma.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So that was fate. That was just kismet. That was one of the key things in Chum. So Mary develops a friendship with Jacob, and things start to happen around the house, and then Mary is, for want of a better term, an anti-hero, I guess, rather than being a victim. She doesn't sit down and do the woe is me thing, and she just deals with the situations at hand the best way she knows how. And there's a really macabre plot twist that a lot of people have said they didn't see coming at all, which I was really, really pleased for. And it's and we're hoping to be able to expand upon Chum and create a feature film.
Oh my gosh.
That's which Jason and I have already started writing. It's called Blind Sight, and at this stage, and it's actually set here in the States, in New Mexico, in Truth or Consequence.
Very cool.
Amazing.
And it melds strangely a couple of Netflix blockbusters that are at the top of the Netflix screenings in the US this week at the moment, which we were also unaware of till we arrived, and we were just both absolutely zapped. So we turned on Netflix and we watched the top two, and we were like, no, this is so weird, you know. How is this a melding of what we're hoping to get across the line and produce as a feature film moving forward? But it does have the female blind serial killer
Whoa.
in it. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it's it's a little different, but it's also got a basis in Chum. So
Awesome.
And the other thing is, Chum in Australia is a brand of dog food. So yeah. So it's been around for about 50 years. It's cheap, and it's got a little Scotty dog is the little emblem for it, and the ads were always Chum so chumpy you could carve it. That was the tagline to the product. So if you say that to any Australian, they'll just laugh and they know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh my God, I love it. Well, and I also love, I have to say that the bringing up Thelma, it's so interesting when that was coincidence, but that, you know, you're talking from the disability standpoint and they're talking from the elderly standpoint. And, you know, it's that same, you know, the intersection of that, right? Like being put into a box.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I hear my mum say it all the time. You know, she talks about being old and being invisible, you know, and just being that discounted segment of the community or society where they just feel they have, or they start to lose their value as time goes on, which is sad.
It was very sad, and the last thing I'll say is, and so interesting too, because when I was, you know, telling some of my family about, you know, how was the festival been, and I'm like, I am not only having the most amazing time, I am connecting with all of these folks that are wanting to, you know, mentor. These are people that have been in the industry 30, 40, 50 years, and the wisdom. And I thought that was so interesting with, what was Manisha's film? The dancer, yes. Yeah. Where he talks about the dancer in India, how that the respect
they have
and the wisdom was so different. So I just, you know, there's so much.
It's a Western thing, I think.
Yes, it is. It is very much so. But bringing that up again, just to say that I'm sure Patty and Lee probably realized what they were doing when they were, you know, putting all this together. But so interesting, all that intersectionality that we're seeing.
Yeah. But, you know, as far as festivals go, I don't know how anything I ever go to moving forward is ever going to top this one, because this has just been life-changing for me.
We love that.
Us too.
Yeah, and, you know, and it's lovely for people to be able to, as women and as women with as a woman with a disability, to be able to sort of push that glass ceiling a little higher.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm also a consultant in disability, in working with people with disabilities. So that's now melded into the film industry.
Wow.
And I've been working on other sound-related projects in Sydney, a feature film called Touch, and did some consulting on that as well, you know. So it's out there. We're getting more accepted.
That's awesome. It's awesome what you're doing, because it's like you hear it so often, but there's not enough where representation matters.
There really isn't.
For the people that are thinking, you know, not me. I mean, even myself as a Black woman, I was a broadcast journalism major in college, and I was like, I don't think I can do this job because nobody looks like me, like has hair like me. And the Black women that were there, they would, you know, get it straightened or chemical. I'm like, I can't. That's
time consuming. That's high maintenance.
Hair, right? Where you think that's limiting. So I can't imagine for folks that may feel like, oh, I do need extra assistance, or I do need to make sure I have accommodations that are, you know, available to me. And just that it can take just that much more courage, but being able to see themselves.
And seeing themselves in you're making a huge difference.
Yes. Well, the other thing that I know a lot of people with disabilities don't do is they don't ask.
Yeah.
You need to put your pride aside and ask for what you need, because if you don't ask, people don't know.
Yep.
And that can lead to a terrible experience. Whereas Jason and I got in touch with Derek before we came, my new bestie, and and we said, can I have a chaperone? You know, where should we stay? What's going to be easiest for us that's going to be more central? And we asked for the things that I needed, and they've all been provided. And it has just made so much difference.
Yeah.
You know, and I know a lot of people in Australia. I've just worked on a focus group recently, and I said to one of the women who's complaining about going to the cinema, I said to her, well, would you ever, when you get into the foyer of the cinema, just stand there and say, excuse me, can somebody help me? Oh, no, I would never ask for help. And I thought, wow, that's crazy. I ring the cinema before I'm going. And I say, what's the best session time for me where you can provide me with someone to meet me at the front door, get me ticketed, get me to my seat, you know, get me my bucket of popcorn the size of my head, and you know, and do all of those things, because nobody cares more about our appearance than ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know, and if you can put that pride or that insecurity or that shyness, and I grew up a terribly, terribly shy kid. My eyes used to water when I spoke to strangers. I was so shy. So, you know, if you can put all of those little personal idiosyncrasies aside and step out of your comfort zone and just ask that one person for help, it will be provided.
Yep. And the interesting thing is, too, that I found out over the years, especially in corporate America, but just in general, really in life, is that people actually love helping other people.
They do.
People love being asked, oh, I know you're an expert in this. Can you help me? What's your idea? Or just the simple thing of, like you said, calling the cinema.
Yeah.
I bet the person on the other end was elated to say, oh, I've got to go meet Eliza.
Yeah,
you know, so you are so right in that. And I think rather than us, it's not only the pride, but just what we see in society, that we're not supposed to speak up, that we're not supposed to cause problems. And so, yeah, let this be your reminder for so many reasons, but especially for those that need the extra assistance day to day.
And if you do it with a smile on your face and you don't get the response you want, hang up and call again later.
Yep.
Or choose a different cinema, or wherever it is you need to go, or the acting class, or the drama school, or the audition, or whatever. There's no point getting angry with people because they simply don't understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
there's some place that's going to want to help you.
there is always somewhere where there is someone who's going to go, hang on a tick, I want to help you, you know, and you're never going to find that person if you don't ask.
Yep.
So, yeah, you've just got to keep putting, particularly as a filmmaker, there will always be people who say no, and it's not just because you have a disability. People get told no all the time in this industry. You know, the strike rate is about 1 in 10. It's the same as any normal marketing job, you know, or sales position. So just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and all the time keep upping the ante on your own skills, so that at some point someone says, well, hang on, you're telling me you want this, what can you do? You can say, well, hang on, let me prove it to you. You know, and then you show them your work. You do whatever it is you're spruiking you can do, and that alone will change the concept for that person who's looking at you.
Yep.
And they'll go, well, hang on a tick. You can do that. Yep, we'll give you a shot. And there's your break. So
That's great advice.
yeah.
Before we wrap up, is there
Yes.
anything else that you want to say about the film? Plug? You have an Instagram website people can follow you?
So Chum 2023 has its own website. At the moment, because of the whole festival strategy, we weren't able to put a full link for the film up there. But there is a cutesy sort of trailer up there and some other information going up as we speak. And I have a feeling that maybe next week the full link will be up there, because now
Awesome.
we've done the
You've done
international
it.
thing.
Yeah.
We've met all our requirements at home in Australia. So, yeah, head to Chum 2023.
Awesome. I can't wait.
CHUM.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Well, thank you, Eliza.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
this
so much.
opportunity.
Yeah, this was
Again, this is
fantastic.
just amazing. So
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Enjoy the rest of your time.
Thank you.